Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Market Wrap. So I am back in Philly. I had an awesome weekend in Connecticut working at my pool office. It was Father's Day weekend, a great time with the family, the US Open, and even though two of my boys were away, they both remembered to call their dear old dad. I was shocked. It was just a great weekend. So 3 watches I love this week. The first one is the Rolex Hulk. Now this is one of the most iconic Rolexes. I love the green dial, I love the green bezel. It's just a beautiful piece. We are seeing great demand on this model, especially being summertime. I just think it's an awesome piece. Love having one back in the collection. Now the second piece is another Submariner, but this one is the white gold Smurf. This was a piece when it first came out. I was a little tepid on the color of the dial. Now looking back, it's one of my all-time favorite Rolexes. I love heavy white gold sport watches, love that blue color. The last piece is an all-time classic, another Submariner, steel and gold. It's possibly the best blue dial they've ever done on the Submariner. I like it much better than the new one. Just an awesome piece for the collection. So you can tell by my picks this week that I've got Rolex on the brain. It never ceases to amaze me when I look at our business and how much trading we do in Rolex and how consistently it just manages to keep growing. Now, these 3 particular models we talked about are 3 of my favorites, and they're all the previous generation, which I find interesting. Everybody chases some of the new introductions. These particular pieces, I think, are some of the best examples. I love the color in that Smurf. I think it's better than the new version. The Hulk for sure is a better version than the current one. And the last, the steel and gold blue, definitely the best blue dial they may have ever made. Now, I'm a Rolex guy through and through. My daily driver is always a Rolex. Though I have many other watches, I seem to always default to my Rolex. I started selling Rolex in 1983. It was a long, long time ago. Back then, Rolex was a tool watch. 95% of the business was men's watches, and they were basically a tool that you used for the functionality. If you were a diver, a car racer, worked around magnetic fields, a pilot, most likely you wore a Rolex. They were not really fashionable, but they could do anything you could do. Most of them looked the same year after year, and people complained that they were kind of big and heavy. They needed service. You know, my quartz watches were much more reliable and a better timekeeper. But now we fast forward a decade or two, and more people started wearing Rolex as a dress watch. Steel and gold watches dominated the landscape. We fast forward another decade or two, and Rolex has now become one of the most well-known brands in the world and one of the most valuable luxury brands in the world. Now, they have a reputation for quality, exclusivity, value like no other brand, and it's made Rolex one of the most recognizable brand names in the world in any industry. They make incremental changes year over year, decade over decade, and now have become much less of a tool watch and now becoming more of a fashion watch and arguably the most successful ladies brand over the past decade. Now, since fashion is certainly not my expertise, I'm terribly limited in that place, I thought it would be great fun to bring in one of my team members who's our lead Rolex buyer, trades Rolex on a daily basis, and dive into some of the specifics of this Rolex phenomenon. So with no further ado, let's jump into our chat with Layla. She again deals Rolex every day and certainly has more fashion sense than I will ever have. So Layla, welcome to Market Wrap.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, today we're going to be chatting Rolex and taking some viewer questions. And I know you deal with Rolex nonstop, so I figured you were the perfect guest to have on.
Probably so. Let's get right into it.
Let's get right into it. We're going to start with the easy stuff. So what's your personal favorite Rolex? Money, no object. What would be your daily driver?
That is a loaded question. For me, I think it changes all the time, but I've always, and I think you even know this, I've always loved the yellow gold day-date with an onyx dial, no markers.
Great choice.
Love that watch. I think it's just a gorgeous, you can wear it with jeans and a t-shirt, you can wear it to a black tie event. It's killer.
I love that piece, 36 millimeters, it's the perfect size. I love it. So lately, the OPs have become huge fan favorites, lots of attention gotten to that model. Which one's your favorite color?
The yellow, by far.
Interesting. Everybody goes with the blue, so the yellow's a...
Yeah.
An interesting pick.
I don't know. I feel like it just goes with everything. The blue is very versatile. The yellow, I feel like, can just be dressed up, dressed down, and both men and women can wear it. I feel like the blue is a little bit more leaning towards just the female sect, but the
agree.
yellow, I feel,
You could
hits
definitely get away
both
with it.
sides. Yeah.
I love it. All right, so last year we saw the Explorer discontinued. This year we saw the market spike as soon as they got rid of it. What do you see going away next year?
I think everybody is going to say a no-brainer would be the Air King, but I'm not so sure. It's a great looking watch. I have a love-hate relationship with that watch.
Okay,
I
tell me
think
why.
a lot of people say has a very busy dial, but I like the colors on it. The green with the yellow and the black and the Arabic numerals. I just think
I like it as an entry-level piece, but
Yes.
it's when I think, I agree with you completely. I think that's definitely going to go away next year.
yeah.
So we had some viewer questions come in.
Okay.
So let's hit some of those.
Ooh.
So in your opinion, what is the next reference to see a rise in value on the secondary market?
I truly think that the 36 millimeter day dates with these stone dials will definitely see a rise on the secondary market.
I know you mentioned the Onyx.
I love that. Lapis dials, wood dials.
The wood dials is an interesting point you bring up because
love those.
I love the wood dials,
Yeah.
and they don't get a lot of attention right now.
They're so 70s.
They're so
Yeah.
70s, but they're beautiful to me in that yellow gold. I've seen women rock them. I've seen men's wear them. It's just I think they're awesome pieces.
Yes, definitely. If we can see more of those here, that would be fantastic. Yeah, but definitely the stone dials. I think they've been getting a lot more attention since the latest releases came out.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I think the fact that they brought out an Eisenkiesel, which is a new stone dial, and it's in it's a $50,000 piece.
Yes.
And if you can get into a kind of a 70s or 80s stone dial, wood dial at half that number, it's certainly an
Exactly.
interesting piece.
100%. And pre-owned would be the way to go on that front.
All right, the next question is, are there any signs of the rise in Daytona prices slowing down?
Oh, we just kind of touched down on that. I mean, they went nuts right before Watches and Wonders. And
Right.
then I think a lot of people overpaid for them, so they were still trying to shoot to get the prices that they paid. And now I think it's kind of leveling out a little bit. I think always the Daytonas are going to demand a massive premium. There's no ifs, there's no way around that. But
I think so too. I think we're starting to see it, especially in Asia. We're seeing some of the softening. Typical summer prices come back, but I'm starting to see the really crazy numbers on the Daytona come back a little bit, which is not a bad thing necessarily.
exactly. Yeah, give people a little breather.
Exactly. All right, so our last viewer question is one of my favorites. I love this question. Do you think the Rolex will bring back the Coke in a modern form, Jubilee or Oyster? And if they do, what will happen to the value of the originals?
That's a great question. I love the GMT. I think it would be so cool if they brought it back, but it's got to be on an Oyster bracelet. I'm just not partial to that Jubilee. Please bring it back on an Oyster.
It's
If
funny
it
you say
has
that
to
because
come
I'm
back.
exactly the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I wear my Batman all the
Exactly.
time. But the Coke was an iconic piece, and I'm shocked it hasn't come back yet. So I
Yeah.
really think we could see that. And then what happens to the old ones?
And I mean, maybe we'd kind of be like what's going on with the Batman versus the new Batman now. Those prices are skyrocketing on the newer ones that we're seeing,
Right.
paying massive premiums on those. And then the other ones, we still have premiums on everything, but
Do you think
I
the
think
Coke's been a little overlooked with this run up and everything else? Do you think the Coke's
without a
gotten
doubt,
overlooked?
I mean, it hasn't fluctuated. It's basically, that's what we're paying. I mean, everybody knows what they're getting and how much they're going to pay when it comes to a Coke. So
I think it very much could spike up. I think that could be the next area. Because again, it is a super iconic piece that is getting a little overlooked. I equate it a little bit to the Explorer 2s. I mean, for a long time, the Explorer 2s were kind of the worst of the sport models, and now with the new introduction, we're seeing much more interest.
yeah, I mean, the Coke is definitely a niche piece. Most everybody's going to go for a Pepsi
Right.
if it's going to be that on the red on the bezel. But I think it'd be very cool to see it come out again, and I think it would turn people's attention a little bit more to that, a classic.
It would definitely be
Yeah.
a stir in the market for
Yeah.
sure. Well, this has been great fun.
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
appreciate you joining us. I think it's
know.
great to have new faces on the show, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
I look forward to it.